Blog Talk Radio.
We are the music makers, and we are the dreamers of dreams.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Superhero Academy. This is Crossfire the Crusader. I'll be your host for the next hour or so. And on the line with me, I believe I have our visiting professor. Is that you, Superhero?
It's Superhero. You know what to do.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, I am just proud. This is the person I have been waiting to get on the show more than anything, because when I think about the real-life superhero movement and who can teach us so much in this journey that we have chosen, Superhero is the name that comes to mind. He is the iconic look. He has been doing this forever, and we're going to get him to tell us a little bit about just about everything about being Superhero. On the line, I've got another caller, area code 518. Area code 518, who do we got?
It's the Silver Sentinel.
Hey, Silver Sentinel. This is another one of our icons. How you doing, Silver?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
I said, how are you doing today?
Doing pretty good. Calling in.
You're the greatest guy in the whole galaxy.
Let's go over it again.
Wow.
I think that's your call sign, Silver. What do you think?
That was pretty good.
Yeah. Well, Superhero, get the ball rolling, because we got a lot to cover in this hour. I mean, first off, I want you to just kind of tell us, how did you get into the real-life superhero thing? Just a little history about Superhero.
Well, I have the most boring origin of any real-life superhero on the face of the earth, believe it or not. Everyone always thinks I'm going to have this big, elaborate radioactive spider or gamma bomb or something, but mine's very mundane. Didn't even realize I was grooming myself for it the entire time I went along. I was started working out when I was a kid because I was very sickly, was in the service, went through the police academy, did some boxing and some kickboxing, ended up becoming a pro wrestler. While I was doing that is when I came up with the gimmick of Superhero, and then eventually I ended up doing it as the real deal. I just kind of segued into it. So I was leading up to it my whole life, but didn't realize that I was grooming myself for it the whole time. I think a lot of people's origins are like that.
I was kind of under the impression you got bitten by a Corvette. That's one of the things I wanted you to tell us.
Well, my wallet's been bitten by a Corvette, so.
Oh, that don't sound good.
We'll probably talk about that later on. I've got the list of topics here in front of me.
Definitely. What you know, and I've got another caller, area code 305.
Hey guys, Night Owl.
Pardon?
It's Night Owl.
Area code 305, area code 518.
Night Owl?
Hey, how's it going?
Night Owl?
Hey, what's up, brother?
Hey.
Not much. How are you guys?
Welcome to the show, Night Owl.
Thank you.
Well, Superhero, to get the ball rolling beyond your origin here, I want to talk about team justice. First of all, the benefits and the pros and cons of having an NPO, and just how team justice works. Because there's a lot of us that are in a situation where that would help us.
Actually, believe it or not, a few years ago, Master Legend was out trying to raise some stuff, and he was at a large chain of grocery stores down here in Orlando, and he asked them if he could put a flyer up, and they gave him a bunch of grief about it, saying, oh, you have to be a nonprofit organization to do that, and everything like that, and basically ran him out of the store. And I was like, oh, really? So not only did I get us organized as a nonprofit organization, I also got us organized with tax-exempt status, which I think of all the nonprofit organizations in the superhero community, I'm pretty sure we're the only one that has tax-exempt status. Correct me if I'm wrong. But from then on out, every time ML went to look for donations or anything like that, not only does he say, oh, well, we actually are a nonprofit organization, and if you want to, you can write it off on your taxes, because we have the paperwork for that as well. So nobody's giving any more grief, but that's how I got started and interested in turning us into a nonprofit organization.
What kind of challenges set something like that? Do you have to have a board of directors or anything like that?
Yes, we do. It's kind of involved. I should have done I should have pulled up my homework a little bit more. I want to say it was a form DR 2016. I'd have to look it up. I'll post some information about it on the RLSH board later. But there was a pretty big fee involved, which we had covered for us. The IRS was very helpful. I know this is the only time anyone's ever going to say this in history, but the IRS was very helpful. They assigned a guy to us to get us all set up. The business with the state was very boom, bang, pow, quick, small fees, register, list me, ML, and now Symbiote as directors on the board. ML is the chairman. And once we got all that accomplished, then the IRS was very helpful in getting us the tax-exempt status. I don't know if they did it as like an office joke, because I had told the guy at the IRS, yes, we're superheroes, and he was like, oh, really? So I think there's like an office joke. They gave the superheroes tax-exempt status. But they were very helpful and got us all squared away, and now we have a form that we give to anybody who donates to us or anything like that, and all they have to do is take that government form with them at tax time and write off whatever they've given us.
Awesomeness.
Mm-hmm.
So after the initial setup, it's fairly simple to stay in line with it?
Yes, it is. After that point, then they send you the forms to renew every year. You file taxes with it just like you file your own personal taxes. As a matter of fact, we were discussing in Orlando, one thing we would like to do now, as a matter of fact, Dark Guardians brought it up to me, and I'd like to get back to him on it. I need to do some homework about expanding Team Justice to a national level. And I know that can be done. There are plenty of nonprofit organizations that are national. I just need to find out how to do it. Also, what we're trying to do now, and you're saying one of the cons is we have to find a better direction for Team Justice. We have to find a way to get larger donators and things like that interested in us. And while we were in Orlando on this last mission on Friday night, actually, we may have found somebody who directs those kind of companies to nonprofits. So some of it is just being in the right place at the right time once you get your ducks in a row.
That's very good. I mean, I look forward to hearing more about that as that progresses on a national level. We'll definitely have to get you back on here and share that, and that could definitely be a benefit to people like me that are out here kind of by myself. I'm not surrounded by other superheroes. Some of the areas seem to have an abundance, and in some areas it's just like me.
Well, there's a good deal of us in Florida, but we're spread out. That's the thing. Like I noticed, like areas like New York, things like that, have an abundance of closely knit ones. California seems to be the same way, but Florida's got a good share of them, but we're kind of spread out. But it's nothing a 90-minute drive can't fix. So It's not too bad.
Yeah. Well, right now I know there's a hero in training by the name of Captain Emo in Little Rock that's been messaging me back and forth. I don't know if he's just kind of a hanger-on or if he's actually serious or not. And one of the sidekicks, just with him, Question Mark, is working in Little Rock right now, and I was trying to kind of coordinate maybe a little meetup, just to get to know each other while we're in the area together and just see where everybody's seriousness is and see what we can do. But,
I actually prefer the other abbreviation instead of HIT. I prefer the other one, which I won't say on your radio show.
Yeah, that one applies more often than not, I think, sometimes.
Yeah, well, it's superhero, not hero. And the term was coined by Hurricane and Rosie, which were the superheroes of professional wrestling. These new guys need to look at that abbreviation with honor and reverence instead of dismay and disgust.
Okie doke. Well, before we get into the hard topic here, which is going to be our concealed carry, that's the thing I've been asked about for you the most. I want to let Silver Sentinel have his moment because we got to do a make-up from last week on our Silver Seal segment. Silver, what do you got for us this week?
Well, this week, as you know, last week I was unable to call in. So this week I have two recipients of the Silver Seal of Approval. This week's recipient is none other than Night Owl. And Night Owl is receiving it because of his service abroad, helping our men and women of the military, serving across. And then, of course, he's also a firefighter and EMT. This young man just does an awful lot. It's important that we recognize him. And last week, your co-host was Tree Song, and I wanted to award him the Silver Seal of Approval because not a lot of people know that he has done a lot to overcome a personal illness that debilitated him pretty badly. He lost a lot of weight, a lot of muscle.
I knew a little about that, but not much. What happened to him?
I'm not sure of what the issue was, but I know that it was really pretty bad. And, he suffered from that, and he has done a lot to make a comeback from that. He's trying to put on like 50 pounds of body weight. I mean, he really wasted
Good
away.
Lord, he didn't have much to lose in the first place.
Exactly.
No,
we talked about that last week.
So
Skyman and myself, each split 55 pounds of our own weight to him.
My God. Yeah, he always struck me as a nice guy. I hope he's doing okay.
I understand he's doing very well. It's a long road, and he's working very hard, and he's keeping a positive attitude, and that shows a great fighting spirit in him, and, he's a very giving, loving person, and, God bless him.
I'll tell you what, if you have not heard last week's show with Tree Song, you need to go to the archives and download that and listen to it because that was one of the most fascinating conversations I've had. He shared with us some real-life ways, just common-sense ways that you can protect the environment. It wasn't all this extreme stuff that you see on the news, people freaking out about, every little thing that you do. He actually had level-headed ideas, things you could just change, little things each day in your life that would help our environment, and it was just fascinating.
I will have to go back and check that out. Yeah, he always seemed like a very nice guy. I hope he's going to do okay. Anybody that looked that much like Jesus had to be a nice guy.
Definitely. Well, that beside us, of course, we mentioned the weight issue. I forgot to step into the drop zone. One of our things that we do here, and I'm looking for my partner in this, Skyman, to call in with his update because he's been showing me up big time. We do the drop zone, which each week I hold myself accountable to my listeners and tell you what my weight loss for the week was. I started out at 366 pounds. I've consistently lost 2 pounds a week, except this week I've dropped 3 pounds, and I'm down to 359.
Sweet.
A total of 9 pounds lost since we started the show.
Congratulations.
Good job, man.
with Skyman's weight loss from last week, that's 29 pounds lost for the entire season that we've been doing this. So I'm anxious to hear what he's lost this week, the way he's dropping weight. Now, into the meat of this, because I have been emailed and messaged, and everybody wants me to ask you about concealed carry and carrying weapons on patrol. I'm just going to let you have some freedom to talk about this, superhero.
Well, a lot of it depends on where people live. Like, for instance, where, like, people have been asking you about that. Do you have any idea where they are calling you from or emailing you from? I'd
have to actually go back and take a look at the different areas and see where most of it's coming through messages on the .net, because they know that you have successfully done this, carried with your gimmick, you have your weapon and on patrol, and you are of protecting yourself.
There's certain instances that call for it and certain instances that don't, Like, for instance, if I'm going to go, hand out flyers at Toys R Us, I always bring a minigun. But other than that, some of the, it depends, whatever state that they're in or something like that. Like, I know we have guys that are in Canada, it's out of the question for them to carry any type of firearm. But most states in the United States do have a concealed weapons permit that you apply for, take a class, unless you're ex-military, in which case you mail in your DR-14, and they will give you a permit to carry a concealed weapon while you're on your person, and that's if you're superheroing or not superheroing. Because I think the reason that a lot of guys have questions about it is because it's one thing to be a citizen dressed in your jeans and your T-shirt and have a concealed weapon on you, or another thing to be a guy in tights with a mask or something and have a concealed weapon on you. But as long as you obey the laws of your state, which are usually going to be as long as you feel that your life or somebody else's life is in imminent peril, you don't use it, it doesn't make a difference. You can carry in your gimmick or carry out of your gimmick, as long as you have that permit on you while you're doing it.
Now, of course, I would, just my opinion from having read your post, you do advocate people having some sort of protection when they're out there on patrol.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I don't, it actually irks me, even some of the people that patrol in these places that don't give them any ability to defend themselves. My thought on it, I'm a big believer in the Second Amendment. I'm a, good old American boy, and I think that a lot of these places that, but granted, you can't take a state's rights to decide away from it, but if they're not going to give you the right to defend yourself, how much is the place worth defending?
Oh, exactly.
Yeah, I am, and I don't mean you have to carry, an AK-47 underneath a trench coat. I mean, there's places out there where these guys can't carry a two-ounce can of mace that's the size of an inhaler, an asthma inhaler, for crying out loud. There's places where if they had a nail clipper on them, they'd go to jail for it. And I'm very, I consider myself very lucky that I live in a state that allows you to defend yourself. We have, for instance, castle doctrine and things like that down here that give you the right to defend yourself. And I feel sorry for a lot of these guys that are in places where they do not have a right to have a firearm in their home, even, let alone, heaven forbid, carry one when they're in a dangerous area or trying to help somebody or something of that nature.
Yeah. I understand, a few years ago when I was manager of the motel, the first night we stayed there, we had somebody that was cracked up, was starting to fight, and I had to go out there with the ball bat and run them out into the parking lot, and the police get there, and I've got this person freaking out in the parking lot trying to fight everybody, and they all descend on me because I got the ball bat. And I'm like,
right.
The ball bat's not loaded. It's not going to go off on anybody. Take care of the guy freaking out in my parking lot. Yeah, they're like, what? I said, look, I'm not going anywhere. I'll let you have the bag. Go take care of this idiot in my parking lot who's threatening my customers.
You had some issues with that, didn't you? With the police harassing you with your self-defense items.
Who, me?
No. Crossfire. Didn't you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's absurd.
Like night
Hey, guys, we may or may not be on the air much longer. My switchboard's acting up here. So if we do go off suddenly, everybody, I'm having some switchboard internet issues. Oh, there it is, back.
Not a problem.
My switchboard just kind of went out on me there. But
I guess I better cover this cut and dried then. If you're a superhero, if you want to be a superhero, and you want to carry any type of a self-defense weapon on you whatsoever, you need to check the laws in your state. You need to check the laws in your county, your city. You need to make sure that you stay within the legal limits of things. I remember a while ago they had some guy, I don't think he ever did anything with it, but he was in Chicago, where it just became legal again to own a gun, but you have to have a permit, let alone carry it with you. And he was saying, I'm going to carry a gun, but I'll only shoot to wound, which, of course, no qualified firearms instructor is ever going to teach you to do. This guy was irresponsible and breaking the law. Do not break the law in the course of your duties as a superhero. If they say you can't have a concealed weapons permit, you're just going to have to find another way. I've heard you can use a cane, things like that, but stay within the legal limits of where you're at, do your research online, and carry what you're allowed to carry.
Definitely. I know I've lost my train of thought. At any rate, let's talk about police relationships. All the real-life superheroes, you have the best working relationship with the police. You and Thanatos, I guess, probably about equal. What's your suggestions? And one of the things we talked about online here on the message board was doing a ride-along with the police. What's some of your suggestions of relationships between the real-life superhero and the police in their local area?
Well, I kind of have an unfair advantage in that area because I knew a bunch of the SWAT guys and everything around here from working out with them before I even started patrolling. So for me, that was another reason I chose, not to wear a mask or need a mask or a secret identity. My identity's always been public because they would have known who I was immediately anyway, and even if they didn't, they would have just run my tag, and that would have been the end of it. So there was really no point in my trying to conceal my identity. But the best thing you can possibly do is just be friendly. The best thing you can possibly do is say, hey. If they see, look, the guy in the mask is trying to hide from us down the alley, get ready to get a cavity search. Because that's what's going to happen to you. But if you're conspicuous, even in towns where, for instance, if I'm not in Clearwater, say I'm down in St. Pete walking an anti-mugging or something like that, the police go by, wave to them. They give me a once-over. They see Master Legend or Symbiote with me. They give us a once-over and keep going. At the rate things are now, don't forget, I was doing this a decade ago when nobody knew what it was. Nowadays, I think the police may even go, there goes some of those real-life superheroes again. They may think, jerk-offs, or they may think nothing, but as long as you're conspicuous, they're not going to mess with you, would probably be the best advice I could give you. So I just would say, just say, hey. Definitely. And I know you have a good relationship with the police because I met a retired deputy came up here to Hot Springs and stayed in our hotel it was here for a conference or something. And I noticed he was from Clearwater, Florida, and I asked him about you, and he's like, yeah, he knew who you were, and we sat there and talked for about 10 minutes about the crazy guy with the Corvette. Yep, that's it. As a matter of fact, my friend Ron was at Morton Plant the other night, one of the hospitals down here, and there were 2 Clearwater cops in there, and he went up and said, do you know who my real name is? They were like, no, and he said, well, what about Superhero? And they said, oh, yeah, we know Superhero, the guy with the Corvette. So I try to maintain a good relation because that good relation will save your butt. they're, you know, if you're obstinate to these guys, you know, they will find a way to, you know, run you in. I hate to say it. I'm not trying to be, I'm just being blatantly honest. I remember one night I was patrolling in the Supermobile, since it's come up in conversation, and across the scanner, there was a call for a missing boy. I can remember, too. His name was Bradley. He was like 4 years old, blonde hair, wearing a Superman shirt, and it was at the 2600 block of Drew. So I said, well, I know what these guys want to do when they're, you know, when they're looking for a missing kid. They want extra cars. They want extra eyes. They want to line everybody up elbow to elbow. And everybody goes looking for the missing kid. And I had my night vision goggles with me, too, so I was like, okay, I can loan them that. So I go over to the 2600 block of Drew, expecting to join this search for a missing kid. I get over there, and instead what's there is a woman in a little tiny party dress with her mascara running down her face in the parking lot and 2 cop cars. So I say, okay, this must be it. That must be the mom. So I pull in, and I look at her, and I say, is this where the missing kid is? And she says, there's no missing kid here. And I said, well, I heard on the scanner that there was a missing kid call. There's no missing kid here. So I said, all right, bye. And she ran into the building. I checked something on my passenger seat, put it in reverse, and started to pull out. And just as I say that, I hear, hold it, Speed Racer, at the top of their lungs, and the car's flashlights everywhere and everything. So I put it in park, and these 2 Clearwater cops walk up to the window. And they're looking me over with the flashlights and say, what the hell are you doing here? And I said, got a call on the scanner, missing kid, wanted to come over and help. They said, there's no missing kid, this is a domestic violence call, and you just interrupted it. And I said, great, now I'm going to jail for obstruction. And you know how well a guy in red underwear is going to last in prison. So I'm reaching now. I'm scraping the bottom of the barrel. I'm saying, oh, well, you know, I know some, you know, guy who works in dispatch, they don't care. I say, well, I'm really good friends with these 2 guys on the SWAT team, they don't care. So I say, all right, last-ditch effort here. And I look, I say, well, you know, I'm superhero. And the second I said that, the flashlights went off, the flashlights came down, and they go, oh, yeah, we know who you are. And they're reaching through, patting me on the shoulder and everything. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, you couldn't see the logo on my chest, on the helmet, on the front of the car, on the back of the car. You know, but of course I kept my mouth shut, because the second I said I'm superhero and they knew who I was, all of a sudden the whole mood of the thing changed, and they let me go, which I got the hell out of there in a big hurry. So, you know, it went from you're going to jail for obstruction to ha, you screwed up, get out of here. So your police relations will save your butt one day, I guess, is the basic, you know, bottom line of that long, convoluted story. So maintain good relations. You see them, say hi. Don't go slinking around thinking you're trying, you know, Joe Vigilante or something.
Exactly. One of my standing things, everywhere I have worked that I have public coming in and out, is I have a pot of coffee for the police at all times. And let them know, you know, if you're having a night, you're falling asleep out there, I know it happens. Come in here, there's free coffee for you anytime you want it. Anything else I can do for you, you know, I'll help you out here. And,
right.
Especially when I was over at Pine Bluff running the Crack Hotel there, them stopping in to get coffee a lot of times with extra security.
Mm-hmm.
And help. I was getting reports back from friends of mine that were in the police force that, yeah, they were talking about you at the morning meeting, you know, I forget what they call that.
Yeah.
In the morning, you know, they said they were talking about, you know, you're doing a great job here, and the crazy guy that's running the motel over there. And once again, you know, it's like here in Hot Springs, I'm known as the fat guy with the bat. That's what I was over there.
Right. So I guess basically the bottom thing to do is anybody that's a newbie that hears this or is just starting out in the superhero community or anything like that, do not try to slink away, just maintain good relations, just, be friendly, and you should be on the right path. Matter of fact, who was the guy recently with the gas mask who has every report he did, it was the cops stopped me, and they gave me a cavity search, and they counted the fillings in my teeth, and they took a DNA sample, and they wanted my social security number, and they wanted to know what my top 10 favorite movies of all time were, and it just went on and on and on. It was like every patrol blog that this guy filed was, the police harassed me. And I don't know what he did differently all of a sudden. I think he helped them break up a confrontation in front of a club or something. Like, he was there first and then they arrived. And
There was a fight, and he actually had broke up the fight. He chased down the guy that was the perpetrator.
Right.
Found out he was injured and got him to the ambulance.
Right. Yeah, without mentioning any names here or anything. And after that, all of a sudden his relationship with them changed, which is another thing that needs to be brought up here, guys. If something is in progress and there are already units there, do not interfere. That is the worst possible thing you can do if you're trying to keep from being arrested, being taken in, or have good police relations. If you're there first and you've got your first aid kit out, or you've had to mace some guy who's beating on his girlfriend or something, fine. Then stick around when they arrive, give them a statement, and split. But if they are already there, unless they are in trouble, do not interfere. That's called obstruction, and it's the quickest way to sour your relations with law enforcement.
Definitely. One of the things that was suggested to me when I first got into this is if you're out at night on patrol and you see the officer sitting there in the parking lot bored, go over and introduce yourself and offer to buy him a Coke or something. How are y'all doing? Would you like a cup of coffee? I've personally not done that. I did when I was in security. I would always introduce myself as a police officer. I'd pull up in a security patrol car and, hey, how y'all doing? Y'all need some coffee? Anything like that. And so I kept good relationships with them when I'm doing alarm responses because that was my backup. If I was going to an alarm in progress, I had to call the police as my backup.
Right, so you wanted them, that's the guy that brings us donuts.
Yeah. You gotta protect him.
We can't let anything happen to him.
That's for darn sure. I'm charging into a place where alarms going off, and I don't know what's up in there. I want to make sure they like me.
So, yeah, guys, I would say so far, like I said, if you want to carry any type of a concealed weapon or anything, to anybody new who's considering doing this or listening to this looking for advice or anything, check your local laws and obey them. I'm, very blessed. Believe it or not, there's people out there that live in states. There was a guy a while ago, his name was Templar, and I think he was in Kentucky, and I didn't know they had open carry in Kentucky. I thought only Louisiana had open carry, but this guy's got a tactical holster on with his gimmick. And you could see what he was carrying, It could be that far in your favor, or you could live in a place where who knows, I've heard where you're only allowed to carry a flashlight, and that's it. So make it a big, heavy flashlight. But in any way, find out what your state's laws are and obey them. As far as police relations go, like we just got done saying, police relations can save your butt. Be friendly and say hi.
While we're on the police relationships and obey the law, the big V word we keep coming up with in conversations online is vigilantism.
Right.
Just expound on that a little bit.
Well, that is kind of I do not like the term. Like there was a kid that I talked to on YouTube that actually started a website to put people in touch with people like us And he's a nice kid. I've watched some of his videos and that kind of thing, and he started this website and told me about it, and it says right on the website, it's got a big picture of a guy that actually looks like you, Crossfire, wielding a sword over his head. And it says, if you need to get in touch with a vigilante, you need to call me, and then I will get you in touch with these people, and then you can have a... And I emailed him and I said, you might want to drop that vigilante off the website. You might want to change that to crime fighter or community activist or something like that. It's just a term that I don't think should be associated with real-life superheroing. I think there's a lot of people that do associate it with it. Any reporter who's ever asked me for an interview or something like that has always wanted to say, so you're basically a vigilante, so they could print that. And it's always, no, I am not a vigilante. There's a big difference between being civically active and publicly helpful and protecting the public if need be, and being a vigilante.
Exactly. There's a big difference between stopping somebody from punching somebody in the face and beating them down like Rodney King.
Right, exactly. Right. There is a big difference between, let's say, Joe Horn, the guy in Texas that stopped the two home invaders with the shotgun, and Bernard Goetz, the guy who went out, in New York, even though it didn't really turn out that badly for Goetz, but he was basically looking for trouble with his .38 in his pocket, which he's not supposed to have because he was in New York anyway. There's a huge difference. Or the mother that shot the guy in the courtroom. She died of cancer recently. The guy had molested her son at a summer camp, and he got off, so she stood up in the courtroom and shot him. That strikes me more as a vigilante than what we do.
Definitely. I hear the people, especially the newer people, those HITs that we talked about, come in and it's like, I'm going to go out and I'm going to find somebody that's selling drugs and I'm going to beat the snot out of them and they'll never do it again. I'm like, what world are you in? If you go out there and you do manage to beat them down, they're going to come to your house and shoot you.
Right.
That's going to be the end of it. You're not going to teach them anything.
Well, it's not a matter of... You can go down and put a serious beat down on somebody. They're not going to come to your house and shoot you, but you're going to get arrested and go to jail for assault. Maybe deadly assault, depending on what you hit them with. Now, if that person selling drugs or something that you want to beat up anyway has got somebody else by the neck and is shaking them around or something, and you feel your life is in imminent, or their life is in imminent peril, you would get away with it. But so would any citizen. What they need to do is realize that although you are a real-life superhero, you are not law enforcement. But that's not a bad thing. You have the same powers and abilities that an everyday citizen has. You just have to stay within the lines of those everyday rights, and you will be just fine. You cannot go out and some guy walks up and says, hey, man, you want to buy some crack? And you shoot him in the chest with your armor 100, and put him on his butt just for offering you some crack.
It's not a Charles Bronson movie. We're not playing Death Wish. We're
right. Exactly. And Charles Bronson, I'm going out to shoot some muggers. Would you care to join me? We just can't do that. But
Night Owl, you've been awful quiet.
Oh, I'm just letting him talk.
Say again?
Oh no, just letting him talk. I mean, he's very well spoken. He's very well versed, so I'm letting him take the floor.
Well, do you have any questions for Superhero?
Questions? No.
Is this KO?
Yeah.
Yeah, KO and me, we know each other really well. He stops by for dinner when he's in between tours and adventures.
We just saw each other, a couple weeks ago, a month ago maybe?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, we've We've met, I think, 3 times now. First time was on a patrol, Clearwater. Second time was Night of the Superheroes. And the most recent time was on my trip out here to Portland.
Yeah, he always stops by to see me on his twos and froms. But yeah, basically that's the cut and dried of it, guys. Is as long as you stay, like for instance, you can detain somebody as long as you know there is no clean-cut citizen's arrest law in Florida, believe it or not. So you can detain somebody if it falls within wherever you are's citizen's arrest powers. Silver, you probably know more about that than I do, being a security officer.
Actually, we lost Silver Sentinel in there somewhere. You probably got to work tonight. When my switchboard went down, Silver Sentinel didn't come back with it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Who knows about civil arrest or citizen's arrest powers here? Because believe it or not, that's an area I'm shaky in.
I've done security myself, and basically a citizen's arrest is just like the same thing the police can do as far as an arrest. You have the authority to make a citizen's arrest, but you're going to have to back it up with a report or anything like that. Like you said, detaining is better. What I was always taught in security is if you got somebody that you want the police to come pick up, sometimes it's better to just keep them talking and don't let them leave. Be a persistent little pest sitting there talking to them and delay them and such like that. When you do make a citizen's arrest, you take them into custody. Even security guard, sometimes that means handcuffing them even if you've got somebody shoplifting or something. Several times that we did make a citizen's arrest for a shoplifter, take them back to the manager's office away from the police to get there and take them.
So you were allowed to detain somebody in the commission of a crime?
Exactly.
Would an ordinary citizen be able to do that, or were you just allowed to do it because you were employed as a security guard?
You're supposed to be able to do it as an ordinary citizen. I have never done it out of uniform.
Right.
Only when doing shoplifting at a grocery store or something like that, and we catch somebody. As far as an ordinary citizen, it's supposed to work the same way. The best thing I could say is if you have an opportunity to work, to take the course offered to be a security guard. Sometimes somebody's looking for a part-time work. That's a great way to pick up some extra money, doing one of these little desk jobs or something, especially during the holidays. You can go take the class. It's usually a 4-hour class. Most companies will put you through it themselves, and it actually teaches you all about that authority as far as a citizen. A security guard has no authority beyond what a citizen has. So anything you're doing as a security guard, you should be able to do outside of the uniform also.
That's actually a really good idea.
Of course, where the police relations comes in, if the police come up and you're in blue jeans and you've got somebody handcuffed for shoplifting, they're going to have one impression. If you're in spandex, they're going to have another impression. If you're in a speed gun, you're going to have a third one.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine.
I picture them pulling up, security guard, oh, okay, what do we got here? And, they pull up, they see somebody in normal clothes, and go, now what do we have here? And, they pull up and they see somebody in spandex, and what in the heck do we have here, Oh, my God,
Now, this is something else, too. No matter what their reaction is, the result will be the same. As long as you are within the confines of the law, as long as you have done it by the book and done it right, you're going to be okay. So it doesn't, like you said, jeans, security guard, spandex. The outcome will be the same as long as you have walked the line and made sure you've done it right. So anybody listening, just make sure that you do it right.
And this is something I've thought about, because you're talking to a guy that almost got into a fist fight in a mini-mart while dressed as the Easter Bunny.
Yeah, I remember that story. It would have been pretty bad when the Easter Bunny, pounded the guy into the ground. I don't know what you did. Boy, they must not like the Easter Bunny.
I walked in to pay for my gas and get me a Coke because I had about an hour drive to 3 daycares I was going to. And this guy, I guess he had a few beers and was going to show out for his kids. And, I'm going to go pick on the guy in the rabbit suit, And so he come over and bowed up on me and made some comments. And I just looked at him and said, we can do this, but just realize that I'm a 300-pound ex-correctional officer underneath this bunny suit. So do you want to continue? And he just shut up and walked away.
geez, there's one in every crowd, man.
You know, I was telling my brother-in-law afterwards about it, and my brother-in-law is very proud. He won't admit weakness in any way. And he says, I'd have backed down. And I'm like, really? And he goes, yeah. He goes, you know, the best case scenario, you come out of that, and for the rest of your life, you're the guy that beat up the Easter Bunny. He says, but you know, worst case scenario, the rabbit wins. He says, then when you go to the mall at Christmas, the kids will be like, Daddy, is Santa going to beat you up too?
Oh, jeez. Yeah,
it just amazes me. You know, I've had people try to pick fights with me when I'm in my clown suit. I've had people try to pick fights with me on Easter Bunny suit. So far, I haven't had any trouble in the Santa suit.
When you're in your clown suit, who wants to pick a fight with a clown?
An idiot.
My
There's
God.
one in every crowd.
I guess so. You know, the funny thing is, me, Master Legend, and Symbiote, like, for instance, if we were out the other night handing out blankets because the temperature's dropping down here and everything. There's a video of it up on our YouTube channel right now. But the funny thing is, we don't usually, I mean, we'll get the occasional, you know, from the distance comment or something like that. One time I went into a nightclub looking for a buddy of mine, and I was out on patrol, so I just went right in my gimmick, walked around, and walked back out again, and nobody batted an eye. And I had a girlfriend back then, it was before Lady Hero, who told me, I said, I don't know why they don't bother. I don't know if people are just used to seeing, you know, unusual characters or something. And she said, no, you guys look like you can back it up. It's like you're not going to go out dressed like that. Like, people look at you and go, well, yeah, I don't know. He's I want to say something, but if he's going out dressed like that, he can probably back it up. So we usually don't have too many problems with that.
Definitely.
You just got to act like you belong there.
Yeah, yeah.
I always make it a point, whenever I've got a gig somewhere, if I've got to get gas, I'll wait till after I'm in costume to get gas. It's just a personal thing. I love to walk into a store to pay for my gas or get my Coke when I'm in my clown face or my jester outfit or I stopped at the grocery store a couple Easters back and bought a loaf of bread and some cheese in the Easter Bunny suit. And I get up to the counter and the lady looks at me real funny. I'm like, I'm sick of carrots.
Oh, jeez. Well, I'm looking down here at your topics we had tonight, Crossfire, and it looks like we've checked off every single one of them except for media relations. I
forgot about media relations. Then we got to talk about the Supermobile. I've got about 11 minutes, so let me, real quick, I tried to do a mission assignment, and last week I got fascinated with Tree Song and forgot completely to do our mission assignment for the week, which is just a little thing that we throw out for you to add to just make your community better. So I'm going to throw two of them together this week. They're real similar. Last week's assignment was supposed to be to get together with somebody, put together a mail out for soldiers overseas. There's a lot of those going on right now. You probably don't have to look real hard. I know a lot of groups that do little shoebox gift boxes to send over to the soldiers. It's got some cookies or whatever, you know, just and a little card, Christmas card for them. The other thing is to for this week's assignment, I'm going to challenge everybody to locate an angel tree and pick up one of these needy children and do what you can to make their Christmas. Those are both out there, just holiday hero things that you can do. If you choose to accept that, tell us how it went. You know, tell us a little bit about what you got out of it and the impact that you had, anything that you learned. If you actually get to find out about the child you helped or the soldier you helped, tell us about that. But the key is not what it does for you. It's just knowing that you've done something good for those people out there. So those assignments are out there.
How do you get involved in this one again?
I know Walmart here. Walmart has the angel tree out. Where
right.
You can pick up a little thing hanging out. You pick it up, and you have a child that from a low-income family, and they need things like socks, T-shirts, underwear. They want this toy, that toy, whatever, and you take the time to get them together a Christmas present box. The soldier thing, you may have to work a little harder finding something like that. I know one of the churches was doing that last year. that you could go help put together. They took shoe boxes, and they put together these little packages. Everybody got the same thing, and they were sent to a generic soldier overseas, or they had a list of soldiers, and somebody that's in Iraq gets this Christmas present from some people they don't know, including a Christmas card signed by dozens of people saying, thank you for your service. And I think for the heroes that are really out there on the line in Iraq, I know Night Owl just came back from Iraq. Is that correct?
Yeah. First week of October, I got back after 2 years.
Yeah, the folks that are over there in the trenches fighting for, our national interests, those are the real heroes. It's not us guys in spandex.
Amen.
This is a fantasy that I get to live out when I'm playing Crossfire. And I may go out and raise $1,000 for a little girl with cancer, and that's great. But, I'm a veteran also, and I know these people that are over there, they're the ones that right now, they're the real heroes. They're the ones putting their life on the line. They're the ones that may not see tomorrow because they're down there in the sand getting ready to get shot at or drive over something that's going to blow up. And if we can make their life better.
Absolutely. I did see another one recently that I think might be worth mentioning. I was in a Walgreens, and for every $1 that you tack on to your bill for what you just bought, the Walgreens, these huge candy bars, these huge chocolate bars, $1 buys each one of these things, and I added $20 onto my bill for like a pack of mini DVDs or something, and they put 20 chocolate bars to send over to Afghanistan. So, and all you have to do is just however much you want to add on to your bill for whatever you bought. Buy a pack of razor blades and then put $20 or $30, which is 20 or 30 candy bars, to send to the guys in the front lines out there in Afghanistan, which I thought was kind of cool.
Cool. We got about 7 minutes, so we're probably going to spill over just a little bit before we finish everything up, because I want to talk about media relations and in the selfish sense. I want to hear all about the Supermobile before we're done. We've got about 7 minutes till this ends. Hey,
okay.
I've got the Crossfire cycle, but it's nothing like the Supermobile.
Well, as far as media relations go, I know everybody has a different idea on how it should be done. Now, I've worked in television for 15 years. I'm getting ready to change careers here in a little while, at least in a way. I just sold a television pilot that's being developed for, it looks like TNT, actually, which gave me some creative credit clout and everything, and I'll probably be doing some more writing. But I've worked in the business for 15 years. I've done the technical end of it. I've written, I've acted, I've done cameras, I've produced, I've directed, I've done stunts, yada, yada, yada. But in my opinion, the major thing to avoid would be reality television. People approach me all the time about doing reality shows and this kind of thing. The major thing to avoid is reality television because it's what's called instant gratification. These people are trying to shoot something as cheaply as they possibly can. They are trying to exploit you. They are trying to get 14 episodes worth of material so they can sell it as a block, and you will never see the light of day out of it. If anything, you might even end up being humiliated. And for some reason right now, there are a lot of people that want to do reality shows about superheroes. I don't know if it's because Kick-Ass was successful or what did it, but there's been another huge flux of people wanting to do reality shows. As far as interviews go, I like to do, actually I'm kind of burnt out on doing news reports and things like that after doing so many of them over the years. People send me magazines from places like Brazil and this kind of thing, and then I go, oh my God, I did an interview for these people a while back. I don't even remember when I did it. But mostly what I like to do is I like to do the foreign ones to get the word about being a superhero out there. And also I think what should be done is any time a student wants a hand from you. I just looked at some guy's thesis that was like 90 pages long. He sent me a copy of it. He did a semester or a graduation thesis or something on the real-life superhero community that was really good. So I encourage you to help any student, help a student filmmaker. There's nothing wrong with that. I guess the bottom line of what I'm trying to say here is be picky and choosy. You're representing the entire real-life superhero community, if you can call it a community. So be picky and choosy about what you do. Don't go judge the wet ta-ta contest, down at Joe's Bar and Grill in your gimmick. Be a little selective about the types of interviews you do and that kind of thing, and about the type of programming you do.
Sounds like I got started because of a reality show. With Who Wants to Be a Superhero. I was one of the ones that auditioned for that.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I got Crossfire. Actually started in my brain about 2 years before for a use in my children's ministry. When I started out, I was going to call him Good Guy, and I was going to have a partner named Sidekick. And of course, we were going to have a villain named Bad Guy. The whole works.
Right.
Very creative names. He evolved. Eventually, was going to turn into Turtle Man. Don't ask me where that came from. And then we went with Holy Roller, and then I realized that 300 pounds on roller skates is not a good idea. It really isn't.
Not saying, just saying.
That's the first line of a 911 report. Man in 300 pounds put roller skates on.
I can see right now saying, "Say no more," as they fly to the ambulance to get there.
Somebody's fixing to get hurt severely, because we have an unstoppable force here going now, The worst case scenario is a broken tailbone on the fat guy.
An extinction level event.
Yeah, it's like a meteor hitting the earth.
Okay, brother, you're coming up on 3 minutes left, so I guess I'll give you the wrap on the Supermobile.
Do it.
1975 Corvette, heavily modified, had the L82 350 removed from it, had a Chevy Crate 383 added to it, which brought it up to 425 horses. It's beaten some Vipers and some drag races. It's very showy. It's, great for the superhero community. From what I understand, it's pretty much the flagship of the superhero community. But that being said, here's the bottom line of Supermobiles. It's like a boat, and boat actually stands for break out another 1,000. If you are going to have something like a Supermobile and keep it online, you need to think well in advance that they're very high-maintenance vehicles. There is no such thing as a sports car that is not a high-maintenance vehicle. Like, the Supermobile looks flashy, it moves like a bat out of Hades, it's great in photo ops and things like that, kids love it, but as far as being utility and reliable and everything like that, the Justice van has it beat hands down. And the Justice van bleeds fluids like it's been stuck. But it always gets where it needs to go. It always does what it needs to do. The Supermobile, you look at it cross-eyed, and it's in the shop. As a matter of fact, it's in the shop right now getting some serious overhaul done to it. So my opinion, get your reliable vehicle out of the way first before you ever even look at a Supermobile. But once you've got...
this up, we got about 90 seconds left. Thank you, Superhero, for being here. I don't think there's any need to go into an after dark. Everybody join us next week. We're going to have a gentleman from something called Power Capes. They make superhero capes for little cancer kids.
Cool.
It's going to be a really interesting interview. And I'm going to sign out with our closing theme song, Superhero. Again, thanks, Night Owl.
Oh, my pleasure, big man. I was glad to help you.
Everybody for listening. Y'all have a great day, and I will see you next week. Same cross time, same cross channel.
We're men in light. We roam around the forest looking for light. We're men in light. We run from the rich and give to the poor, that's right. We may look like cities, but what would you say, or else we'll put out your light. We're men in light. Always on guard, defending the people's rights. La 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 la. from the rich and give to the poor, that's right. We may look like candy, but don't get us wrong or else we'll flag them out. We're men in tights, tight, tight. Always on guard, defending the peaceful cry. When you're in a fix, just call for the men inside. We're Butch.
Night Owl, you still with us?
I'm still here.
Hey, well, I guess it's just me and you right now. I had never had a chance to talk to you, so it's take advantage of this few minutes that we got. Actually, we got an hour, up to an hour. I guess you're glad, of course, to be back in the States. Tell me a little bit about your what you were doing in Iraq.
Let's see. A little bit backstory. I got out of Fire Academy, went from the spring to 2007. Got out at the end of the summer and couldn't find work for a little while. Got a job at a little small fire department. It's just a 2-man engine crew in the middle of nowhere in Central Florida. And after working there for about a year in 2008, I did some networking with some guys I met with in Fire Academy. Turns out one of the guys I knew was working in Iraq for this company. He was talking about the whole time we were in Academy, making pretty good money working for the government. So I got a hold of him, bing, bang, boom. A few months later, I took a job in Iraq working as a firefighter, and they trained me up as a driver-operator for the fire engine, a fire tanker, also to be a dispatcher and a fire inspector. And that's what I did for 2 years. First year was near Mosul, in the middle of nowhere, out in the desert, pretty much stand as far as you could see and mountains on the horizon. And was off work for about 6 weeks in between my first and second contract. And then the second year, I was in Baghdad the whole year, really more in the suburbs of Baghdad to the west of the city at the Victory Base Complex, which is a complex of military camps that surround the Baghdad airport like a donut. And I worked there for this year up until October when I got out, and now I'm going to paramedic school in just outside of Portland.
Awesome. Yeah, I saw that you had moved up there in the Zeta zone.
Yes, we've met up a couple of times already.
I guess you'll be working closely with the alternates or whatever the group's going to be called now.
Yeah, I'm not sure if there's a specific name for it, the new alternates or the whatever you will. Obviously, there's a big presence here, and that was kind of a mitigating factor, among other things, for one of the reasons that drew me up here. But I'm looking forward to getting to know my community. I've only been here a few weeks. I pretty much drove cross country. It was like a 7,500-mile road trip. I took the scenic route when I landed in the States. Drove around for about 5-6 weeks until I got out to Portland. Pretty much 3 days before my class started, and it's been a breakneck pace so far. I go to class 2 days a week, and we're moving right along through the anatomy and physiology. And actually, I got a midterm next week already.
Wow. Yeah, I know moving to a new city is interesting. I only moved an hour away from where I used to, about an hour and a half away from where I used to be. I'm still trying to learn Hot Springs. There's a lot to learn here, a lot of history, a lot of the streets are not square in this town like I'm used to. You know, they're all wavy and windy, and if you make a wrong turn, you can be driving for hours trying to get back to where you were. But it's a neat town. I'm learning a lot about it. It's a good adventure. I had mentioned ride-alongs. I'd actually like to see if I can do a ride-along with the police one night when I'm off, and just see, things from their perspective and learn a little bit about the city from the people that actually are out there on the streets.
Yeah, and I would check with your local fire department. Pull up the website for your town, for the fire department. They probably have a tour you can schedule and possibly even do ride-alongs on the ambulance. It's kind of a more sticky situation because of patient privacy, but you should check in on that. They may allow you, especially if you're first responder certified, they may give you a little leniency, but I can't speak for your local department. You need to talk to them firsthand.
It's not the certification, but I've got the training. I was actually taking the EMT classes in Iowa, and I failed my first test by one question, and I will never forget one question that I know I missed on that test because of it. But the second one, I never got to take the retest because circumstances brought me back to Arkansas at that point. So that's where it's at.
Yeah, life's funny that way.
Yeah, it was meant to be. It was meant to be. And I actually considered there was a chance for me to go to EMT classes in Pine Bluff a year ago, and they would actually pay for me to go through the classes and pay me to work for them. And honestly, it's not something I want to do anymore. Trauma is just not. I don't have it in me. I used to have that. I used to be a trauma junkie. I used to like that excitement. It's like, I just don't like pulling up on an accident scene and finding a child hurt or coming to see where some guy hit his woman with the ball bat and bust her head open. I just didn't have it in me anymore. So, I couldn't do the ambulance. I didn't want to do it. I like being able to help people, but there was just something about every day and all the stuff that goes on over there where I was at that I decided not to do it. That was just something that was behind me.
Sorry, go ahead. I was going to say, if you were interested in getting away from trauma, what you could do is inter-facility transport, where you just kind of like, old folks that need to be transported from the nursing home to be taken down for dialysis. It's a little more low impact. You're going to be moving people on a more regular basis, but then again, you may be doing long distance traveling from one facility to another. Sometimes it's state to state because they need to go to a specific facility. So it's kind of a two-edged knife, a two-edged sword. It really depends on your particular area. Like everything else with fire, EMS, and law enforcement, your scenario, your situation is definitely going to dictate what your options are.
Definitely, I kind of like where I'm at right now. In my life, my kids have moved out. It's just me and my wife, so a lot of the over-the-road, long-haul stuff, that's not necessary for me anymore. We have a low-impact job, as far as working at the hotel. But then again, there's a lot of times we get to help people out, that if nothing else, they just had too much to drink and we get to escort them to their room or whatever. But it also gives me a lot of freedom to get involved in some of the charity stuff here locally. Everything from the Christmas parade to I'm doing a Santa Claus appearance next week. That the benefit from that is going to go to the children's home. And so there's just different things that I can get involved in now that I couldn't 2 years ago, and it makes a different impact. I mean, when I was 20, it was fun. It was exciting to be out there in the heat of things, but now I'm 43. Don't have as much energy and enthusiasm as I had before for some of that. I still have the training. I'm still ready to leap into action, as was proved a few weeks ago before I started the show when my neighbor was attacked. I'm there when I have to be, but I don't, to be sitting there on call ready to go didn't appeal to me anymore. I've been through that. I've done that already, and it was like, that's just something that's behind me. I'm just like my military time. I'm going into a ship and running the engines in a battleship just doesn't appeal to me anymore, and it was fun when I was in. But
there's something to be said for wanting to stabilize and having a little bit more peaceful home life.
Oh, definitely. And, I'm going to draw this out one day, but anybody that's in a real life superhero community needs to look at the concentric circles around their life. First thing, you got to take care of yourself and make sure you get your physical fitness and you get your rest and you get what you need to keep yourself healthy. Then you got to take care of your family. That's the next circle. And then you worry about your extended family and your community and work your way up. What happens at home is more important than what happens to some stranger out on the street. You've got to take care of home first, and you've got to take care of yourself first. Just because there is something that you can do, don't jeopardize your health. If you got to get your rest, get the rest. If you need to exercise, get your exercise.
Yeah, Maslow's hierarchy.
It's noble to go out there. It's noble to go out there and be delivering sandwiches to the homeless, or raising funds for the needy, or even patrolling the neighborhood just to make sure that the people out there are safe. But if you're doing it at the cost of your own health, you're not helping anybody.
No, exactly. There's I was just saying Maslow's hierarchy, he talks about that, and it's the same thing. Like, all those things are going to suffer if you don't take care of your primary needs and your secondary needs first. Everything after that is, it's a blessing to you to be able to help other people, but you need to take care of yourself. If it's at the cost of your health or, the dynamic of your household and family, who are you? How much good are you really doing?
Yeah, that being a Superman never sleep, but they're made of ink and paint,
Yeah. Sure.
No,
trust me, I'm a bit of an insomniac myself, and I definitely feel it when I don't force myself to get a decent amount of sleep, and I'm going to class the next day and sitting in that chair for 8-9 hours trying not to fall asleep.
So when you change the subject a little bit, when you chose the name Night Owl, had you already read The Watchmen, or that was just a coincidence?
It was a coincidence. They both have the same root, which is the person who stays up all night. The character that they based the original Night Owl character. He was a police officer who stayed up late after his shift, worked out, went to bed early. As soon as he got done working out, and woke up early, and then went to work out again. And Hollis Mason was his name, and I guess in the fictional story of his life, they said that the cops thought he never slept because they always saw him working out, so they called him Night Owl. My name came from the same root, however, different spelling, completely different reference, completely unrelated to The Watchmen itself. It was I had not read The Watchmen until after I learned about the community, and it was still several months later, but a lot of people kept talking about it, so I said, I should check it out because, it's a classic story anyway. It's been listed in, the Times Best 100 books, and I decided, I should definitely check this out. It's a bestseller, and I enjoyed it. It was an interesting read. I try not to make it about, my life about that and try and parallel that at all, because again, as Alan Moore has said in a particular interview when he was asked about real life superheroes, he said, well, heaven's sake, just remember that Rorschach was not a role model, and you can apply that to all the characters in the story, because his whole point by telling the Watchmen storyline was to show the flaws and such, and prove that they do more harm than good, superheroes, if they had real superpowers. So, a roundabout way of saying, was not influenced by the actual storyline, but they do have the same root name, which is the insomniac person who likes to stay up late.
Well, that's cool. I always wondered about that. I never have asked. I always just always wonder where that came, that did come from. Now, how long have you been doing Night Owl? How long have you been a real life superhero?
Well, like Superhero has mentioned, it was something he sort of fell into. I was already a firefighter and an EMT when I actually took on the moniker, but I came across it several times by happenstance, doing searches on the internet and whatever. Came across, there used to be a website, it's probably still up, called Superheroes Lives, where it featured a few real-life superheroes and a few people who are outside of the actual community, but they lumped us in together, like the guy who climbs skyscrapers, and they called him Spider-Man. And
yeah, I remember that.
Yes, and I came across that site, 2005, 2006, and, kind of went back and forth. In late 2007, I was actually, I was reviewing some information, some notes. A friend of mine, he and I wanted to write a comic book when I used to live back in Ohio. We went to college together. We were talking about, we wanted to draw our own comic and write it, and it was basically us with superpowers, college students with superpowers, and it was kind of comical and lighthearted, but after I moved away, the whole, that pretty much scuttled it. So I was reviewing the notes because he mailed them to me, and I started thinking, this needs to be rehashed if I wanted to do this. I want to take it a little more practical. I started thinking, well, okay, what would you do if you were on a budget? Say you're a college student and you're trying to be a real-life superhero. And so I ended up, of course, Googling the term real-life superhero and came across a lot of the people in the community, particularly on MySpace. I started to see this vast number of people on MySpace, and early on it was hard to differentiate the cosplayers from RLSH. And I started contacting a few different people, asking questions, and I actually spoke with Slapjack, and he said, hey, we're always looking for new people who have good ideas and can have stuff to contribute. So I created a screen name, Night Owl, and I joined the Heroes Network in January of 2008. So I'm coming up almost on 3 years.
Wow, it's been I remember when Heroes Network formed at that time, the Heroes Coalition was imploding on itself. It had overabundance of crazy and just basically was falling apart. And I think Tolkien and Master Legend put together the Heroes Network, and it was refreshing. We've gone a long way since then, and we've got 2 good boards, actually 3, several others out there that are kind of on the fringe. So we've come a long way since the days of the Heroes Coalition.
I've heard a lot of references to it, but I was never. I came in a little late for all that. The Heroes Network was pretty much in a renaissance phase at that time.
Yeah, that was
Heroes
quite
Network
insane,
1, if you will.
The thing that really sticks with me is the aside from the whole Cloud Star Chaser declaring he was Jesus thing, was we had a guy that wanted to fight crime using a super soaker filled with lighter fluid and making a flamethrower out of it. And I just kept telling him, I said, do you think it's a good idea to have something that melts that you're going to fire flames through? We call that a bomb,
Yeah, I mean, are you fighting zombies?
Exactly. And, there was just that one sticks with me. There were just so many stupid ideas like that were being tossed out. And you see the new people come in and they're like, hey, I could take this and do this and this. And they come up with some crazy Scooby Trap kind of idea to catch criminals. It's like, that only works in the cartoons, people. You've got to be real.
Yes.
That's what that was. And I don't do patrols at this point. I've done a few, drive around, we're looking for a couple of runaway kids and things like that. But I don't actually get out and patrol at this point. I'm wanting to do some, and that's what I'm calling it, a street ministry. I'm not calling it security patrols or anything like that. I've got my own direction in this, and everybody should have their own direction. You don't need to measure yourself against, am I doing the same thing Superhero is? Am I doing the same thing Master Legend is? Am I doing the same thing Night Owl is? You need to find out what your thing is that you need to do as far as this, and do it the best you can. And that's my opinion. But
yeah, I agree.
When I got into this, I was reading about Mr. Silent.
Oh yes.
There was an article on him, and they commented that when he's in the area, the crimes in the area where he's out patrolling go down because he's so conspicuous that these people that are trying to hide don't want to be around somebody that's drawing a lot of attention, so they'll go somewhere else. And I thought, well, that's kind of cool. It's like, you could be a clown, you could be a juggler, whatever. If you're drawing attention to an area, they're not going to want to be there. Specifically, if you're out there in a superhero suit and you're watching for them while drawing all this attention, they're going to go somewhere else. And, you don't have to be confrontational. I mean, we've all seen the video where Dark Guardian goes up against the drug dealer in the park. And I'm like, that dude is huge that he goes up against, and he doesn't back down. It's like he's challenging the Incredible Hulk, and all he's got is a fly swatter, He's just, this guy is
that was
huge.
A big boy. That was definitely a big dude.
Now, but it's not always like that, But
no, definitely not.
But and I've done my share of confronting people, and especially during the time that I was running the motel. It was a common occurrence almost every day that I had to throw somebody out for selling drugs, for beating somebody up, for whatever, rule violation of somebody's space, or or whatever. That was a common occurrence there for a while. Just that was my life, and I hated it, but I did it because it made, other people's life easier. It had to be done, and it was my income. But to go out on the street, if you go out on the street and just shake hands and meet and greet people, maybe walk a young lady to her car safely, hand out a couple sandwiches to some people that are on the street, and help direct them to some resources that can help them, you've made an impact. And if nothing else, you may not come up on a crime, but if you've deterred crime, if the police can look at where you've been walking through there and say, you know what, while he's out there, they're not out there mugging people. They're not out there doing this because he's drawing attention to the area. They're going to know you're making a difference. And, you don't have to fight crime. It's not about
you never know what outcome is going to come from your actions either. What ramifications, either big or small, comes from you doing something good. There was one particular night. This is going back a couple of years, probably 4 years. I was working for a bar. I was living in South Florida at the time, and I had to walk quite a ways to my car because of the parking situation. And I heard I was still wearing my shirt from work. It said security across the back, and it's a black polo with big white letters, so it stood out. You could see it from quite a distance, and I heard footsteps coming up on me rather quickly from behind, and it was a young woman, and she said, look, I'm not trying to scare you or anything, but it was 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and she was like, I don't want to walk alone, to my vehicle. I figured you'd be safe to walk with, if that's okay. And I said, yeah, definitely. So I walked her to where she was going, and I said, all right, take care of yourself. And she said, well, where are you going? I said, my truck's 10 blocks back that way. She said, oh, you don't have to do that. I said, well, I walked you half. I didn't want to walk you half the way, And who knows, what might have happened if she had walked by herself, down, 4 o'clock in the morning on, a Saturday night. Who knows? So I figure, I did my little part to keep somebody safe, at least make sure that nothing happened, and I'm willing to accept that.
And that's what makes the difference, and in a lot of us, to have that heart to do that, to go that extra mile for somebody. It's not about beating up criminals. It's not about judging people to be criminals and then beating them up. It's about doing those little things that make an impact. I mean, you don't know what would happen to that young lady or what wouldn't have happened, but you went the extra 10 blocks, or you go the extra mile there to make sure she got there safe. And that's what we all need to look at doing. Going that extra mile, doing that, a little bit here, a little bit there. Those little challenges like I give out each week about sending out gifts or doing the angel trees or whatever. That's just about giving a little bit of yourself to the community at large. You were off duty. You didn't have to do that, but you did, and that's what makes you a hero. You didn't have to go to Iraq and fight fires, but you did. You don't have to be an MTA, but you are. You made these decisions because of the person you are, because of the heroic heart you have, and that's of course that's why Silver Sentinel recognized you this week for your contributions, not necessarily as a real life superhero, but as a person in general. And
I do appreciate that. Thank you.
And that's been an honor to know you just marginally over the years. I mean, I remember when they did this thing down at Dunedin. Is that right, Dunedin or Dunedin?
Dunedin.
Dunedin, is that how you pronounce it?
It's pronounced Dunedin.
And I had actually contacted Dragonheart and Night Vigil and got them in touch with Superhero, and they brought their contingent of their folks from Skiffy Town down there and joined you.
Yeah, I met those guys. They're really nice.
Oh yeah, they're great. I love Night Vigil and Dragonheart. They're some great people, and doing good things. They have a big heart too. I mean, I know Dragonheart doesn't do patrols, but he does charity work. But I think Night Vigil does do some more real life superhero type work, but I'm not sure what level he does. But I know they have a big heart for kids. They have a big heart for people in general, and and I knew a situation like that was, just a great opportunity for them. And then I seen them there, seeing them there with Superhero and the Supermobile and Master Legend and Night Owl, and
that was a fun night. I got to meet, who was there? It was Superhero. I actually drove Amazonia down. I picked her up on the way because she was living about 30 miles south of me. I met Master Legend there, Superhero. Symbiote was not there, but I did meet the Article, who was, I believe he was a Skiffy guy, Wave Warrior, and, his name is, I'll skip my mind here. Two of the guys from the Whatabash show, but that was a fun Parthenon, yeah. But it was just cool to meet people of kindred spirit and, have a good time, explain what we do. A lot of people asked questions and had really positive reactions to, our explanations of what we were trying to accomplish. And they just said, hey, man, that's really awesome. I'm going to look that up.
So I meant to ask Superhero this. I'll ask you, though. Is Master Legend as big a hoot in person as he is online? You seem like he's a blast to be around.
He is. You got to keep your eye on him. I'm not gonna lie. He is all over the place. He is like a monkey on caffeine as far as trying to keep track of him. I turned my back on him 1 minute, and next thing I know, I heard his stun baton going off, and he was showing it off for some children. Bah, 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 bah. I was like, oh, please don't shock yourself or a kid. It was he plays up his persona very much, but he has a lot of enthusiasm. He really enjoyed. We did a tug of war for, superheroes versus the children, and of course the children won, and he totally played it up, pretended like he put every ounce of strength he had into holding that rope back, and he had a good old time. It was great to meet him. He's very charismatic, very talkative, very easy to engage in conversation. He's got 1,001 stories. So I hope you have a long evening. If you're gonna
dull moment around him.
No, if you're gonna sit down and have a steak dinner and a cold beer with Master Legend, you better clear your schedule for the whole evening, because he loves to tell stories.
Yeah, he seems like a great guy. I'm hoping if everything works out, I'm going to be making it down to Orlando this year for MegaCon. He's one of the ones I hope to meet while I'm down there.
I was a little disappointed this year when as Superhero mentioned earlier, I got to, as I was passing through the Tampa area, I stopped by and I was actually able to just sit down and have dinner with him while he was taking a break from work. But I had given him advance notice I was going to come through several weeks, and he was going to try and get Team Justice to come over from Orlando, Symbiote, and a couple of Master Legend, a few other people, I think. But it just ended up being me and Superhero, and I was really disappointed. I really kind of wanted to have a steak dinner and a cold beer with Master Legend just to say I had done it.
This is one of the things you do as a hero, huh?
Yeah. I mean, I've ridden in the Superhero mobile. I've ridden in the Stingray. It's as fast as he says it is. We took it out on the Bay Bridge, and he was doing well over 100, just stretching the thing's legs, and it was just like standing still. It was just cruising. It was a good time, and it's one of the things I can say I've done that I'm really stoked about. That's one of my geek moments that I've ridden in it once or twice now, and I chalked it up to a couple of things.
I almost think it'd be more exciting to ride in the Justice Van, though. I've seen the videos from inside it. It kind of reminds me of have you seen Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey? Where they're in the back of the van building a robot. Yeah.
Yes, I have. I haven't been inside the van, but at the Night of the Superheroes, it was there. They drove over to. That's actually, we met Master Legend at his hotel room when he came to Dunedin, and we got changed there at his hotel room from civilian clothes into our gimmick, and headed out from there. Never got to see the inside of the van, but I did get to see it, and it was easy to spot from the parking lot as we came up on it.
Yeah, I look forward to beating him, because if he's half as exciting in person as he is online, it'll be an adventure, even if it's just dinner. I have no doubt, and he plays his character. I think a lot of that. I tell people a lot of that is just play. I don't believe he believes some of the stuff he says, and then other stuff he says, that's his belief. But
sure,
I think he's pretty sharp when you get right down to brass tacks.
Yeah, his persona is very big. He's got a big personality, and I don't really get into his belief and stuff like that. I don't try and judge people too harshly because of what they believe is usually their private thing. But yeah, he is definitely a colorful guy. No doubt of that. No one can ever say that he is not.
And I know he's been in some serious scrape-ups. He's one of those people that, what little bit I do know about him, I know if I had to have somebody who had my back, he'd be one of them.
Yeah, a lot of people give him crap. A lot of people give him crap about some of his involvement in this or that and the other. But the truth is, when it comes down to it, he's boots on the ground. You tell him, hey man, we're gonna go do a handout, and he is like 110% behind you. He's like, all right, let's do it. What do we need? I'll go get some stuff. I'll call some people. And he's ready to go at the drop of a hat. So, say what you want about him, but he's committed and he's willing. So,
and when the fertilizer
hit him that,
he said to keep it up. He definitely can back up his claims. If it comes down to fists and feet, he's got the fists and the feet, and he's ready. And that impresses me. They can say what they want about his videos and all that, but he's proven himself. And him and Superhero are just they're the Batman and Superman of the real life superhero community. And
there's quite a bit to be said about his enthusiasm.
Master Legends are Batman. He's the one that's crazy and wild and exciting and gets the job done. And Superhero's the one that should be on the postage stamp, But they're an interesting team, and I think a night spent with the two of them out there just handing out flyers or whatever they're doing could be just incredible. I have no doubt.
Yeah, they did a couple of things that I just, at the time, I didn't have the funds to make it over there to hang out in Orlando. When I was a firefighter in Florida, I was making basically minimum wage. I made about $7 an hour with no benefits. A really small fire department, startup. They didn't have a whole lot of funds to spread around for benefits and things like that. So I didn't get to do a lot of the stuff that I wanted to, but the Night of the Superheroes was a great opportunity, and I'm glad I took it because there was just you can't really replace the experience of getting together with people in the community. It's just a very unique feeling of camaraderie, and what's the word I'm looking for? It's a validation, really. It's great validation of that you're not crazy, or at least if you are, you're in like company, so you're not the only one.
Yeah, you're not alone anyway. So as Night Owl, what is your mission, your goal? What do you seek to do out there as far as I lean towards things that involve children, things like the child ID kits, missing children. I did the fundraiser this past summer for the little girl with cancer. Things that involve children, helping them, and just watching that gleam in their eyes. The superheroes helping them out. That's the kind of things that I lean towards. But what is your mission as Night Owl?
Really, I'm not really sure, to be honest. I took it as originally my goal was to educate some of the people in the community, because I met a lot of people who, quite frankly, I was scared for them because of some of the poor quality of the equipment, no training at all, and they were talking a big game. And I quickly found they were posers, and they were people who burned out very fast and went away. But I guess it would be to just do what good I can wherever I am. Obviously, I'm trying to advance myself in my career to just help people for a living. So I look at it as an extension of what I was already doing. The real-life superhero community and route allows me to see things from a different angle as far as going out and doing safety patrols and charity handouts, just things that you would not expose yourself to otherwise. I'm a big believer in not flinching at some of the ugly things that are out there in society, and a lot of people isolate and insulate themselves from some of the things that they would rather not see. And I think I would be denying myself, I would be living a lie if I didn't say, okay, look, there's real suffering in the world, and here I am on my pedestal living comfortably, and ignore all that. I would feel very wrong for doing that. So I any opportunity I have to, like, for example, I've gone up to help Thanatos twice now, once during the Winter Olympics and once last weekend, to hand out supplies to the needy.
And
another
one. Now, you Supermobile, you met Master Legend and Superhero, and then you worked with Thanatos. Those are just iconic moments that I just am so jealous.
If you want a surreal experience, okay, the Thanavan is a body removal van. Lay on the gurney and have him drive you around when you're going on handout. That's a surreal moment.
I can imagine, me and Thanatos would talk, and I can imagine just him and I standing there together, me in the white and red and looking like the guardian angel and him there as the angel of death. We'd look like two of the horsemen of the apocalypse coming down the sidewalk, I'm sure.
Yes.
But, tell me a little bit about Thanatos. Just, I can imagine that he is a person that when he walks into the room, he just fills the room.
Thanatos is one of the coolest guys. He is just one of the coolest guys I've ever had the privilege of meeting. He is what I would call a true believer. He has a lot of background in, without giving away too much about his individual identity and his history, because that's pretty well guarded. He has a lot of skills that he's acquired over the years as far as observation, and he is just a cool guy. I mean, he's a scary guy to have as an enemy. I'll just put it that way. But he is the most warm and compassionate and friendly guy I could say I've ever met. He's just amazing. He's got a great family. I've met them a few times, and he's very welcoming. Every time I come to his home, I geek out a little bit because all the cool real-life superhero and Thanatos stuff that he has at his house, it is awesome. The crypt, as we affectionately refer to it as, it is a cool thing. And every time I get the chance to go up there, I think I've been there 3 times already. It's cool. I geek out a little bit every time I go there. And it's cool because this past time I got the show.
I want to get up there to beat Thanatos for one of these handouts. I would love to get up there for that because just to find you know how awesome he is.
As a frame of reference, a lot of people, like, for example, this Phoenix Jones guy that's going around talking smack about real-life superheroes, he's like, real-life superheroes only give out sandwiches and stuff like that. While that is true that we do charity missions, it's not mutually exclusive of crime fighting. And Thanatos has a great theory, and I would really have to have him explain it more, but going back to the Maslow's hierarchy, which we talked about earlier, you have primary needs. And if you're not being fed, you're going to steal food, and that's what he does. He keeps people alive for one more day at a time by giving them water, blankets, food, and that's something they don't have to steal that day, or they don't have to fight or kill for. And he's doing it in one of the worst places in Vancouver, along the intersection of Main and Hastings. It is a literal hell on earth. People doing drugs and selling sex stuff out in the open, half a block away in full view of the police station, because they are so overwhelmed they can't do it. And even if they try and move in and clean the streets up, they can make a mass bust of everybody on the street. Every position, every drug dealer, every hooker will be back out on the street or be replaced within 5 minutes.
Yeah,
it's insane. And
talk about instead of thinking about crime, imagine it as you have floodwaters coming into your city, and you could be out there with a sponge and a mop trying to clean the water up, which is the face-to-face crime fighting, or you can be laying the sandbags and building that wall that keeps it from coming in.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, you're out there on the ground level handing out sandwiches and blankets and coats and whatever, and meeting these basic needs. That's like putting them sandbags up along the river to keep the water from coming in.
And what he's doing that through the process, he's building the trust of the people who see everything, the street people. And by doing that, he's gaining their confidence, he's gaining their trust, he's learning their names. And that's something a lot of people don't, they ignore these people. Your regular Joe citizen, John Q. Public, they see all these people and they don't want to acknowledge it. They look right past them, they walk right by, or they avoid that part of town altogether. And he goes up to them in his full regalia, sometimes undercover as a civilian, and he gets to know them. He gets information from them. He gets to find out what's going on. He's working slowly through it's a paradigm shift. He's trying to get people to switch over from that mindset and actually get some hope. It's very, very much like the smaller scale version of the counterinsurgency they've run in Iraq and Afghanistan, where you're winning the hearts and minds of the locals and you're investing for a long distance, a long-term change. And he's got the right concept. He's got the commitment, and that's why I say he's a true believer, because when you meet him, you know that it's something he's totally committed to and he's dedicated to, and he understands it's not going to happen overnight.
Yeah. I
know when I worked a little bit.
I first started working at that motel over at Pine Bluff. Before I became manager, we had issues with the homeless people would sneak in and sleep in the upstairs areas and hide just to get out of the weather. And they would go up there and have a big fit and throw them out or call the police to move them out and all kind of stuff, I hadn't been working there about a week, and I caught somebody sleeping up in the stairwell. And I just woke up and said, look, I can't have you here. I need you to leave. And I was very polite. And he turns to me and says, thank you. And he says, I'll let everybody know. And I never had another homeless person after that. Never had anybody that disrespected the building. I treated him with respect, and the word was out on the street that this was not available, that we couldn't have people there, but that we did it respectfully. And they respected that and stopped sneaking in. And I was like, wow, just one little act of kindness instead of having a big conniption fit and going all ballistic on them, And
when you preserve someone's dignity, you'd be surprised what efforts they're willing to go through to accommodate you.
Exactly. And and I had been to the edge, of going over the cliff of being that person on the street. At the same job, after we cleaned that place up, the owner came in and fired me and gave the job to his nephew, and we got fired and evicted, so we were homeless and unemployed within minutes.
Wow.
And it was kindness of other people who helped us get back on our feet. And at the same time, I could get a real appreciation for how quickly somebody could find themselves on the street, and and the things you have to do to get out of that situation, and the things that you need is to be able to get out of that situation, and food, and shelter, and somebody that respects you and helps you maintain your dignity are three things right there that can help a person out of that situation. When you just ignore them and pretend like they're going to go away, they're not going to go away, and they're just going to, become a part of the scenery because there's no initiative to go on. When you reach a certain level, you get so depressed and so down, you don't want to go on. And I see people like Thanatos and Team Justice and Data Man, and they're out there, and it's not glorious fighting supervillain kind of superhero stuff, but it's real. You read in the comics where where Superman fights Lex Luthor's giant robot or whatever. But, you don't have to flip too many pages. And at least once a year you see Superman rescuing a kitten from a tree.
Yeah. In between a busy schedule.
That's an iconic image, the superhero getting the kitten out of a tree. How many times have you seen that with different heroes? I don't think I've ever seen Batman get a kitten out of a tree, and it might not be pretty if he did, but...
No, it'd probably be with a grappling hook, so it probably would be messy.
The bat kitten out of a tree thing, But, I can't imagine what that device would look like. Little bat around the claw, grab it, brings it back to it.
It'd probably like some sort of
those Robin up with the cat,
Yeah.
But those total victories, you see those. I have an issue of Justice League right after Superman died back in the 80s when they did the whole Doomsday thing. It was part of the between the time that the Superman died and the when they brought back the four Supermen and that whole saga there, the Funeral for a Friend thing, and it was a Christmas issue. And Justice League comes up here and they were reading Superman's mail that he gets, and he gets these letters from people like, my house was burned down, can you help me? I need this, can you help me? And they're going and responding to these calls for help that he gets and building houses. One of the ladies, her house had been destroyed in the battle with Doomsday, and they went and rebuilt the house. Of course, they sent Flash because he could build it faster. And it's like, you're reading this, and it's like they're not fighting any supervillains. They're not defeating any criminals, but what they're doing is making a difference. And it's just awe-inspiring when you read a story like that. It's exciting to know that Spider-Man can beat the Green Goblin, but it's even more exciting to know that he can help somebody in need. That's amazing. It makes them real. Anybody can be the flamboyant center of attention for 10 minutes and do something great, but to go that extra level and get down on somebody's level, that's what makes a difference. Well, everybody, I want to go ahead and close out the show here tonight. I'll thank you for being part of it, for this impromptu interview. Thanks to Superhero for telling us all about Team Justice and everything else, and Silver Sentinel. Everybody that's listening on the podcast, thank you for tuning in. Be back with us next week as we hear from Power Capes and learn about what they do to help kids with cancer. Y'all have a great day, and thank you for coming to Superhero Academy. Good day.